I think we all have at least one or two stories that sound like they came straight out of a movie. In fact, where you work can seriously increase the chances of experiencing this kind of wild moments, especially if you work at night. Like I mentioned in my last video, I work at a nightclub as a cashier and wardrobe manager. And during my second week on the job, something happened that made it clear I was in for a lot of interesting stories. At the time, I lived an hour away by bus, and I had just finished my shift at 2 am. I was listening to music, surrounded by strangers, half asleep, when suddenly, everyone started running. Someone got stabbed, blood, chaos, and the way it ended will definitely blow your mind. But first, I don't know if you know, but I designed and published my very first coloring book named Fairy and Fungi. It has 24 illustrations, all handmade by me, featuring the everyday life of fairies interacting with mushrooms. It is available on Amazon, and I will leave the link in the description. The art piece you will see throughout the video is also another little project of mine, a webcomic about a femboy that I hope to start publishing by summer. Now, without further ado, let's get back to the story. When I started working at the nightclub, I was in charge of the concert shifts. This nightclub offered concerts from Fridays to Sundays from as early as 7 p.m. to usually midnight. Then it closed for half an hour to kick everyone out and prepare the DJ shift, which lasted until 6 a.m. Since I was new and learning, I only did concert shifts at first, and I usually ended my shift at 1:30 a.m. to help my coworkers with the initial rush of people coming in for the DJ party. At the time, I was studying during the weekdays and living with my parents a train or bus away, and in the wee hours of the morning, my only choice to go home was an hourly bus that took close to an hour to get to my hometown, plus a 20-minute walk to my parents' house before I could rest off my bed. The pay was good, so I didn't mind all the hassle. The bus was usually noisy because, well, people get drunk on weekends, and they too took that bus to go home, so I always wore my headphones to cancel all the screaming with music. First week was fine. I was getting used to the workflow, and one of my coworkers was a friend of mine at the time, so I fit in pretty quickly. My second weekend was a bit different. It was a normal Saturday. I ended my shift and took the bus at 2 a.m., got my headphones in, and just watched the towns and trees go by. I liked to sit at the front so I could stare right ahead at the road and avoid eye contact with drunk people who could potentially start talking to me. I remember noticing a skinny guy with a tank top and sweatpants that barely covered his groin getting onto the bus a few stops later, but didn't think much of it. Halfway through the trip, the bus came to a sudden stop in the middle of a street, and I saw the bus driver quickly open the doors and telling everyone to get out. I was in shock, and when I looked back, I saw a tall, overweight man on top of the skinny guy from before, and there was blood on his shirt. Everything was chaos. People were running out of the bus. A guy was trying to hold the big guy back, while a woman nearby screamed. And I didn't think, I just ran there to try and get the guy off. Honestly, I didn't even think I could also get stabbed. I tried to pull him off, but he was too heavy and I couldn't get a good grip in the bus corridor. So I tried to plant my feet on two seats and pull him back with my arm around his neck, like a chokehold. The other two guys were also trying to get him off, but the big guy was almost impossible to move. He was in a daze of insanity. He really wanted to end the skinny guy. I don't know exactly when or how, but at one point we were able to pull the big guy off enough for the crying woman to get herself between. They must have been related somehow, because he did react to her, and they ran away from the scene. I had no idea what to do. I went to gather my things from the seat while people took the skinny guy out of the bus, which I'm not sure if they should have, because moving a bleeding person is dangerous. But I took the chance to call the ambulance. They had already been alerted by the people who rushed out first out of the bus, so they were already on his way. I had taken a first aid course not long ago, so I was very focused on telling people to please do not lay this man down or he
gets unalived.
And thankfully, a nurse student was also there, so she was able to keep him stable until the ambulance came. Apparently, the big guy only stabbed his armpit and cut his neck a little bit, but didn't touch any veins, so thankfully the guy survived. The police were also there, of course, and talked to everyone that stayed on the scene, including the three of us that stopped big guy from unaliving skinny guy. They took our data and told us we will be called to testify, then stayed with the poor bus driver that was sitting in shock on the sidewalk. Honestly, I don't want you to think I'm brave or some kind of hero. I was a bag of skin and bones at the time, and things could have gone horribly wrong for me if the guy decided to go berserk on everyone. I did not think things through, and at the time I was young, in shock and full of adrenaline, so I acted without thinking. But after everything died down and I started to calm down, I felt the full weight of what just happened. I didn't know what to do. It was close to 3 AM, but I still called a friend that was luckily awake, and guys, I turned into a crying blob of emotions right then and there. It was a lot to process. My friend, bless him, was super kind and listened to everything I had to say. He calmed me down and we laughed a little bit at the surrealistic situation that just happened. Because I was still a bit in shock, he insisted on coming to get me by car, and he drove me home, which definitely helped getting my mind off, and I will forever appreciate him for being such a great friend. We decided to meet up the next day before I had to once again leave for work, and retold the whole story to my group of friends. The news were already talking about what happened, but the reasoning behind why Big Guy did what he did wasn't clear yet. It was time for me to get to work, and as my friends walked me to the bus stop, we saw police cars parked on the front of a house. I looked out of curiosity, and there was the same big guy from last night getting arrested. The woman was also there, crying again. I couldn't stay because I had to take my bus, so off I went. But I told my coworkers what a heckin' unrealistic situation I lived because, let me remind you, this was my second week at work, and I had already had what we call here my baptism of fire, which refers to experiencing an extreme situation that is usually related to work, so nothing else can face you. I thought for sure there couldn't be anything that could be worse than this, but oh boy was I wrong. You will find out in future videos that this is not the only story where some stabbing is involved. A few months later, I was called to testify what I saw. I went to a very square building with people that gave that no-nonsense aura, and told them what had happened from my point of view, any details that I remembered, and I was also asked to describe the main characters of this soap opera. They told me that I will have to go to court to testify again and be asked some questions by the attorneys on both sides. Honestly, I wasn't too happy about having to be this involved, but I felt it was the right thing to do, and I also wanted to know how this whole drama will end because, I'm a shameless gossiper. I'm not the type to start a rumor or things like that, but I like to watch the drama from the side. So, what happened in the end? Here's the plot twist. There was no court, no attorneys, no nothing. Why? You wouldn't believe it, but the skinny guy that got stabbed reached an agreement with the big guy that stabbed him. Okay, so from what I heard and gathered from other people and the news, apparently these guys used to live together. They fought over something, and because the skinny guy was the legal owner of the house, he kicked the big guy out onto the streets. Big guy went to live with his sister, which was the crying woman at the bus, and I'm not sure, but apparently skinny guy wouldn't let him back to pick his stuff either. That's all I know. I have no idea why they fought or who did what, but it all ended with the big guy stabbing a skinny guy, and then somehow skinny guy forgave him and reached an agreement. Like, come on, you almost got unalived. Then again, I also have no idea what the agreement was or if the skinny guy had done some shady stuff to avoid any legal troubles. But good lord, I was definitely not expecting that on my first couple weeks on the job. Moral of the story: don't stop people, and if you work at a nightclub, prepare yourself because you will likely come out traumatized and full of stories. If you liked this video, let me know in the comments. I would also like to know if you had something similar happen to you. As I said at the beginning, the art piece you saw is part of my webcomic about Hazel, a boy living in a very conservative town who hates conflict, but also loves cute dresses. Because of this, he will face struggles that will make him choose between his friends and family and who he is as a person. I hope to start posting by summer, so stay tuned, and if you'd rather take a break from all this drama, you can check my coloring book Fairy and Fungi. Link is in the description. Thank you for listening all the way to the end, and see you next time!